Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish review. In today's Doctor Who Big Finish review, I'll be taking a look at February's monthly range release, which is the Blazing Hour, the penultimate main range story before the end of the beginning, which I will be reviewing very soon. I have reviewed January's main range release, Colony of Fear. I'll leave a link in the description below to that review so you can check out my thoughts on January's instalment in the main range, but I'll be taking a look at the February release, The Blazing Hour. So we'll take a look at the presentation of the CD, then my thoughts on the story, and then my concluding thoughts on the actual story itself. So without further ado, let's take a look at the CD itself. So taking a look at the presentation for the Blazing Hour, so we've got a plume of black smoke there, we've got one of the creatures from the Testament facility, we've got Violet there, Turlough and the Doctor looking very concerned with a fiery explosive background there, The Blazing Hour by James Kettle. The side of the release and the back of the release there, so if you know more about the story then do feel free to pause. And we have the cast list and the total running time being 120 minutes. So taking a look at the leaflet itself, so if we open it up we have the production credits there, advertisement for Doctor Who magazine, then some of the people involved recording the Blazing Hour, and then the next instalment in the main range, the final story, The End of the Beginning. And then the other side we have the 5th Doctor era logo there if you want to change it. And the disc art for the release, which is exactly the same for both discs. The Blazing Hour, the penultimate main range story, which is rather fitting as the first full 5th Doctor adventure was with Turlough in Phantasmagoria. So the Blazing Hour feels like the main range sort of coming full circle in a way. So is The Blazing Hour a blazing success? Absolutely, this is an incredible story, wonderfully bleak. To me, that's when the 5th Doctor really works at his best, you know, putting this very innocent Doctor in the most horrible of situations like the Caves of Androzani or Goth Opera, as this story is very much the 5th Doctor in sort of a Chernobyl sort of style, sort of disaster. And speaking of Chernobyl, if you haven't seen that sort of TV series, it's wonderful. A really great TV series, and rest in peace Paul Ritter, who recently passed away from Friday Night Dinner, and he starred in Chernobyl as well. But this story of course has a sci-fi twist, and this story also explores the theme of human ignorance and greed. Part 1, we start the adventure off in a high-tech facility with two scientists, Ellison and Horbin, preparing for an experiment as they are using carry-on atoms to multiply the atoms to be in the same place but in a different time, essentially bending time around these atoms. And what the scientists are doing are trying to add more carry-on atoms to create more energy, as this planet called Testament is the energy powerhouse of the human empire. But the tests of the experiment only show disaster, so is it wise to carry on? Luckily the Doctor and Turlough arrive. Hopefully they can put an end to all this, and we get some excellent character moments between the Doctor and Turlough, laying down some great world building of the human empire, just essentially being work and more work, and this sort of being a period of economic downturn. So will the carry-on experiment put an end to the economic crisis, as the planet Testament has the population of 75,000, and there's great bits of foreshadowing from Turlough about sort of the nuclear power plants with humans destroying themselves with that, and you know, is this facility really producing safe energy? So we see the Doctor and Turlough join a tour around the facility, where we get a real grim moment as sort of an intruder on the Testament sort of facility has been frozen in time in a Levison jar, and the only way to sort of get the person out is to smash the Levison jar, but that person will also be shattered into tiny little bits as well. Now this is when we're introduced to sort of the main supporting cast within this sort of story, of Violet Hardacre, who's this very sort of slightly patronising businesswoman, and Theon, a more sort of friendly character, with the Doctor wanting to get to the heart of the facility to see what on earth is going on, leading him to sort of investigate, leaving Turlough with the rest of the tour guides. Now the music for this story is wonderfully chilling. You know, the use of stringed instruments really helps make this story feel very unnerving and that disaster is on its way. It's a very ominous feel, with the Doctor talking to Ellison, you know, saying that she has doubts, you know, about this experiment, you know, and the Doctor saying, don't worry, I'm a safety inspector, and Ellison very much under pressure by Horbin, but Ellison could only see disaster, you know, from her dreams and the simulations predicting that this experiment's going to fail. So we learn more about the experiment, with the Doctor sort of comparing it to sort of running a light bulb off the time vortex. But despite those warnings, Horbin orders the experiment to begin, leading to a very explosive cliffhanger. Part 2, disaster has struck, and this is when we really get sort of the Chernobyl feel, with the sound design being super from the rubble to the fires burning everywhere. It feels very immersive as the roof has been blown off, but that's only the start of the problem. Ellison has managed to hold back the explosion by freezing it and putting it in some sort of time dam, but that isn't stable and it isn't going to last. So the planet must start evacuating before it's too late. So the Doctor wants to go and warn the authorities at Testament City, whereas Turlough is trapped in the rubble surrounded by loads of dead bodies. And this is when sort of Violet Hardacre tries to help him, but she doesn't want to danger herself, so she leaves Turlough to essentially die. Luckily, Theon is around to help him out in this sort of escape, but there's these strange creatures around where you can hear sort of their screams. So you can hear all their sort of screams, which is just really chilling stuff. So of course the Doctor sort of starts to take charge within this and wants to go to see the authorities, but Horbin has other ideas, as he thinks that the Doctor can rectify this problem by taking him to the energy cell room. We learn more about the society, that they're very much, they don't want problems, they only want profit. So Turlough and Theon see the true extent of the explosion as they try and escape the facility and warn the authorities, but they're being stalked by these creatures, what turn out to be experimented humans, distorted matter and manipulating DNA. And what spread sort of these monsters, which the sound design again is excellent for those. So the Doctor and Violet go off to the planet Thorn, which is the main authority planet, and this is when we get a really horrible scene between Violet and the Doctor, as Violet says Turlough's dead, giving Peter Davison a really fantastic moment to shine, playing the guilt of the Doctor that he's lost another companion. And this really makes the Doctor even more determined to put an end to this, and this is showing that Violet's really taking advantage of the Doctor's good nature. But things are about to get a lot more worse as Horbin orders the time dam to be taken down, leading to, you guessed it, more disaster. Part 3, we continue to explore the creatures with, again, great sound design, and this half of the story is really great for Turlough, as Turlough starts to take charge of his situation and trying to think of a solution, try and, fix this problem. But back in the TARDIS, the Doctor is very distraught. The Doctor's in no fit state to negotiate with the Thorn government, and this part really shows how corrupt the humans are, with them thinking, the evacuation sounds expensive, and they're all in denial that Testament is gone, but they still think that they can make it work and get money from it, and that it's still in operation, even though the Testament's literally burnt to the ground at this point. And all the Doctor wants to do is to evacuate all life from Testament, but the Thorn government just seem to be very slow acting. It will be on an agenda and the inquiry will take place next month. By the time they get around to that, half of the galaxy will be wiped away because of Testament, leading to the Doctor's absolute disgust in what humanity has become, and the only option is to blow Testament up and implode it into a black hole. So this is when we start to explore the more powerful topic raised, that authorities are happy to pass the power over when it means pushing the button and passing the blame onto somebody who is just following orders. And the Fifth Doctor, having the task of blowing up Testament and to wipe out millions of years of culture, that doesn't sit right with the Doctor, but he feels like he has a sense of duty because he's lost, Turlough, so he feels like, his life doesn't really matter in that sense. But this part as well explores Turlough in a very interesting light, because Turlough's quite a cowardly character, and this sort of explains why he has that sort of nature built within him, and this has a very horrific cliffhanger. Part 4, now this has a very tense start as the Doctor bargains with the government that he'll press the button once all the rescue ships have left Testament. So the evacuation of Testament begins with the time dam is being taken down, where we get some really rich character scenes between the Doctor and Violet, seeing their differences, but also what is Violet hiding, what's her motive, and we have a great twist. But Violet has other ideas, with the Doctor being reunited with Turlough and with his plan in action. So this part is incredibly tense. Now, does Violet redeem herself? Well, I'll let you discover that. Now the ending for the story, I will say, is quite sort of powerful and quite poignant, in the sense that the powerful are always remembered, but not the people who try to make a difference. It's always the main figure of the catastrophe what is remembered, not the little people who try to make a difference. It's always the rich and corrupt people what seem to get the praise. So it's quite a poignant ending, really, this story. The Doctor, played by Peter Davison, a marvellous job bringing the dashing innocent gent to life, as we have the sort of classic sardonic wit of him being truly horrified by the experiment. As this story progresses, he becomes more forceful and more authoritative and lashes out, especially at the Thorn government, at their own incompetence, and we get the real sort of pain and guilt that his Doctor faces of the loss of Turlough and destroying the whole world, which I think that this story is incredibly rich for the Fifth Doctor, and is a real good sort of character piece for Davison's Doctor, actually, putting this very innocent Doctor in one of the most dire situations. I think that it really lets him shine. Turlough, played by Mark Strickson, a fantastic performance, bringing this sort of sarky roll of the eyes at Turlough to life, and I love that we explore his cowardly nature within this story, especially in the second half. It allows him to shine and trying to think of a solution to save this planet. So yeah, this is a really good story for Turlough, and I think that this story really explores sort of the alienness of Turlough. He's not a human, so it's very interesting to see sort of his perspective on humanity within this story. Violet Hardacre, played by Raquiola, what a great performance, bringing this very patronising, slimy character to life, manipulating everyone around her just to benefit her own skin. She's very smug and very arrogant and just a downright awful character, who has some very interesting sort of moments between the Doctor, especially in the second half of the story. Corbin, played by Raz Gatak, a good performance, bringing this sort of very sheepish character to life, with him being, blinded by his work and quite forceful to achieve a result because he thinks that he'll be rich and, he'll get promotion. Ellison, played by Lindsay Morial, an excellent performance, bringing this very apprehensive character to life with the pressure and knowing the responsibility she holds, and she has some great chemistry with the Doctor, and a very interesting character exploring that sort of power, that power shift really, that she's the one to blame because she's the one who caused the disaster even though she's following orders. So I think that's quite an interesting character theme to play within this story. So what are my concluding thoughts on the Blazing Hour? Well, the Blazing Hour continues to prove why the Fifth Doctor to me is the best monthly range Doctor. So this was definitely a good explosive story to end the Fifth Doctor's last full monthly range adventure. It's wonderfully bleak, incredibly immersive. Couple that with some powerful rich themes of human greed and ignorance, this story really does resonate with me, with the sound design being great and the music really enhancing that doom-riddled story. It shows the Fifth Doctor at his best and what he's capable of when he's pushed to breaking point. It's a fast-paced disaster movie story, what I highly recommend. James Kettle creates an engaging story with superb world building, and this is definitely a new favourite Fifth Doctor adventure which I highly recommend. I really did enjoy this one and I highly do recommend you check it out. If you're not a huge Fifth Doctor fan, I feel like this story will definitely change your perspective on that, because it really pushes this Doctor to dark places and literally to breaking point in some extent. It's just a really good story for the Fifth Doctor, and again for Turlough as well, seeing him sort of from an outside perspective, and sort of exploring his sort of cowardly nature within that. It's just wonderfully bleak, and I think that's what makes this story really stand out, because it's just so immersive and I really did enjoy this story. So I'm going to give the Blazing Hour a well-deserved 9 out of 10. Just a wonderfully rich story which I'm definitely going to be revisiting in years to come. So yes, that's my review of the Blazing Hour. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please do like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. There'll be plenty of more Big Finish related content coming very soon. My next Big Finish review, which will be a review of Masterful, the 50th anniversary special release celebrating 50 years of the Master. So I'll see you next time in that Big Finish review. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.